if you look at a lot of professionals in different categories of life or in different subjects, they're very one-dimensional if you look at a lot of them. If you look at a chess grandmaster, you really don't see a lot under the surface of who he actually is. But in reality, there's so much more to him than what you can see from just square one. I posed this question to myself a long time ago where I thought about how useless is a useless craft pursued to mastery. It's really an interesting idea to take something that really isn't all that helpful and put so much effort into it. Now, again, some things I think are less useless than others, of course. Like if you're studying how to become the best engineer, or being a very good writer, or pursuing philosophy or something, there's so much depth there and improvement in the human condition that I wouldn't consider that a useless craft. But if you take something that's purely for enjoyment, and you say, let's say gymnastics. Gymnastics is inherently not very helpful in real life. Let's be frank. It builds strength, sure, but in reality, it's for pure the enjoyment. But the process of getting there is more important than the actual sport itself. Because if you meet and listen to a lot of these professional athletes, they all sound very similar. It's very much like early mornings, late nights, working hard, studying the craft, burning the midnight oil, watching game tape. There's so many of these aspects that are congruent in developing the mentality of a craftsman that a lot of people don't tap into. Me personally, my craft, I would say, is in the martial arts and like kickboxing. Now, realistically, I'm gonna get into maybe one fight in my life, maybe one. I'm a pretty passive guy, but it's not about protecting myself in actuality. It's about the discipline of sitting down and being able to sit and put in the work that's necessary to get to a goal that I say matters to me. Because I'm saying that this is important to me, it matters. At the end of the day, if I want it to matter, it can. If I don't want it to matter, it can't. It cannot. So this situation where choosing these crafts which to go into, it really doesn't matter all that much. It's kind of just a game of passion, because you start with a little passion or curiosity, and then eventually it becomes this thing of, how far can I take this? You know, if you look at the wrestlers in the UFC, they're not that, like, I don't know if wrestling in specifics is the greatest martial art ever. If the technical skill of a wrestler is better than the technical skill of someone who's been doing taekwondo for as long as disciplined, or karate, or Muay Thai, or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or any of these things, but they have the highest win record. And it's because the culture of wrestling is dense. It's so incredibly powerful and so disciplined and hard-headed that if you put a wrestler in the room with anyone else doing any task, it teaches this skill of just like hard, gritty, disgusting amounts of work. And you put a wrestler in a room where they have to do something else, and you'll find that immediately. You'll see that grit come out. And that's really what mastery teaches. It teaches grit. With a lot of other things, it'll teach a lot of subsections too. Like, for example, with martial arts, it teaches a lot of humility and learning from mentors and important topics like that. And it'll teach you how to lose and how to win. It'll teach you the value of winning. But it'll push your limits, really. And that's kind of the most important thing, is that sitting down and understanding that you are going to either win, lose, or improve in some aspect. If you do it again and again and again and again and again, you got to get back up because you failed, or you messed up a brush stroke on a painting, and you can either recover from it or start over, and you've got to do that 1,000 times, because mastery comes way later than 1,000 times. you get to know yourself. You get to know what you're like when you lose. You get to know what you're like when you win. And so I went through a long time of sitting around and not really pursuing mastery in anything and not trying very hard in anything. Like, I would do well in school, but it was always a little bit left in the tank. There was always something I could have done. And then the moment that I realized that, you know what, I'm going to pursue like the pursuit of self-development to mastery, it became this thing of, okay, how do I work hard in every moment that I can? And how do I understand my limits? Because you can only find your limits at the end of the rope. You can only find and define them by trying and trying really hard. And you don't know what trying is until you've tried as hard as you can. I want to be in a position in life after I've lived my life where I can look back and say, you know what, that potential was pretty well seen. We can say the potential was well seen. We could say I've learned a lot, I've grown a lot, I had strength, I had vitality, I saw a lot of things in life. I want to be able to sit there and go, that was good. And you can't get there by, living this life of whatever. Of I'm gonna be everyone else. Of I'm gonna sit and like doom scroll for 3 hours because balance. You can't live that life. And you can't be okay with doing those things. Like, it happens, understandable. But if you're just constantly in a position where you're doing what everyone else is doing, then you're gonna end up in a place that they're at. And a lot of people aren't happy at the end of their lives. And a lot of people say that they spent less time working, and a lot of people say that they spend less time their biggest regrets is not hanging out with their kids enough. But in reality, it's not about doing too much work. It's about not experiencing the breadth of life. And you can only do that by, number one, being happy with where you're at, and then experiencing it even more. It's always been about experiences, because it's about experiences and personal growth. But at the end of the personal growth, you kind of just fall off. Because your experiences, you've had experiences, you can change lives, you can do all that, that'll stick, but you die. And when you die, it's over. Your personal growth is done. And it's at zero. It doesn't matter how much muscle you built. It doesn't matter how big you got, how much you read. If you don't take that mastery to its highest level and then pass it on to someone else, it's gone. And I mean, that's okay. If you want to take something to mastery, see how far you can push yourself, and then just die with all that to yourself, that's fine. But passing on that idea of teaching mastery to someone below you sounds pretty good to me. Okay, that's a pretty quick video. That's kind of all I got. I'm gonna get back to being me. See ya.